If you feel like you want to work on your Etsy shop but never seem to have enough time, you are not alone. Most days, it's not even a motivation problem. Maybe your schedule is already full or your energy is limited, and by the time you finally sit down to work on your shop, your brain just doesn't cooperate. Trust me, I've been there. Now, what helped me become more productive wasn't waking up earlier or forcing myself to work longer hours. It was changing the way I structured the little time I actually had. Hi, my name is Jai, and I've been doing this Etsy thing for over a year and a half now. And I used to try to do everything all at once, from research to designing, then making listing photos, doing the SEO, and then hitting publish, all in the same day. It sounds productive, but it's actually a fast way to burn out. That's how I ended up with weeks where I don't post a single listing at all because my productivity would depend on short bursts of energy whenever they happen. And that just isn't sustainable. Now, I use a different system that's built around batching tasks. The concept might not be new to you, but today I want to share the specific weekly structure that I use to get meaningful work done in about one focused hour per day, even during busy weeks, without feeling burnt out. Now, before I get into how I schedule my week, I want to talk about a few things that I treat as non-negotiable. Because as an Etsy seller, no matter how organized your schedule is, there are always small tasks that you need to show up for daily, especially if you want to treat Etsy like a real business. For me, that starts with responding to customer messages and handling order fulfillment. Since I sell custom print-on-demand products, this part of the business can't be skipped because I need to make sure that customers get their items on time, and I also need to make sure that they don't need any corrections because refunds are a pain. The other daily habit I stick to is posting at least one listing a day. This is where this weekly workflow, which I'll be covering, really comes into play. Because I'm not creating a listing from scratch every single day, but by batching my work throughout the week, most days, all I'm really doing is going into my drafts and hitting publish. This is important because posting consistently keeps the shop active and visible to Etsy, but more on that later. So the goal is that the heavier work is already structured into specific days, so these daily non-negotiables stay small and manageable. I'm not starting from zero every day, and I'm not constantly catching up. That's what makes consistency easier for me, especially on those busier weeks when energy is low, but I still want to show up. Let's start with Monday. I know how we all feel about Mondays, but it has low-key become one of the most important days of my week. I think of it as a reset rather than a work day. I'm not trying to be creative or ambitious. I'm just getting my footing and making sure that the shop is in a good place before building on top of it for the rest of the week. I usually start by checking the basics, like are there any sales running that need to be adjusted or scheduled? Are my Etsy ads doing what they're supposed to be doing? Like if something isn't hitting my target ROAS or return on ad spend, I either turn it off or clean up the keywords that they're showing up for. I also check if there are any public reviews that I can respond to. This used to be very low priority for me or something I do only when I remember to do them. But I've learned that ignoring small tasks just creates mental clutter later on, so it's better to get them out of the way early. I also use this time to look at listings that have been sitting there for a while but haven't been getting any sales and see if there's any room for improvement. Maybe the SEO can target different but still relevant keywords. Maybe the main photo can be switched out. Or maybe it's just not that strong a product. And that's okay too. If a listing doesn't get any traction at all after 2 listing cycles, that's 4 months each, I decide to pull the plug on them. Over time, I've learned to be much less emotionally attached to individual listings, no matter how long it took for me to design them. And sometimes you just need to let things go. Once the maintenance side feels settled, I move on to research. Now, I won't go into much detail on research for this video specifically, but I use tools like Everbee and Allura to see what's currently performing well and what patterns also keep repeating in the market. I'm not chasing every new idea, but I'm paying attention to what the market seems to be currently responding to. I also gather design inspiration like fonts, colors, and themes that are currently working well. Then I put everything into one place so that when I start designing later in the week, I'm not staring into the void. For design inspo, I just use Kittle and paste everything in a new document. Along with that comes SEO research, especially when I'm trying a new product or exploring a new niche. I'll use Everbee to look at top performing listings, then create a spreadsheet, and take note of all the titles and tags being used. Now, I won't be copying them for when I create my own listings, but I'll be using these as references to build my own sets of long-tail keywords for future listings. By the end of Monday, I have clear direction and more realistic expectations for the week. Tuesday and Wednesday are design days. I've intentionally allotted 2 days for this because, for me, design takes the most time and energy, and I want to focus on quality. Previously, trying to come up with new designs every single day just gave me more mental blocks. But giving myself 2 dedicated days allows me to slow down, explore ideas properly, and still stay within a limited daily time block. Because the research was already done on Monday, I don't waste time deciding what to make. I just open my design tools and start creating. Some weeks I focus on a small number of unique designs and really refine them. Other weeks, I take a more templated approach and just change the words, colors, or main graphic to reach different audiences. What matters is that during these sessions, I'm only designing. So no checking analytics or writing SEO or thinking about mockups just yet. I just let the creative juices flow, and this makes the hour feel less draining and far more productive than when everything is mixed all together. So by the end of Wednesday, I usually have a good batch of finished designs. Whether that's 5 new designs or even 50, this sense of completion is important because this is the heaviest part of my workflow, and once it's out of the way, the rest of the week feels lighter. Thursday is mockup day, and honestly, this part feels a little bit like factory work, but in a good way. I'm mostly just dragging and dropping designs into listing photo templates. If you're not using templates for your listing photos, I highly recommend creating them. It does take time upfront to make them if you're starting from scratch, but once they're done, they save a huge amount of time in the long run. I personally use Kittle, Canva, and Photoshop depending on the product that I'm listing. For digital products, I usually use Canva. And if you need some templates for your own digital products, I actually have a free high-converting set that you can use, which I will link below. For shirts and other POD products, I use Kittle, where I just paste the design onto multiple artboards and then export them as a group. I also use Photoshop if the mock-up photo also needs to be retouched a bit. So I really am just dragging and dropping my designs onto the templates and repeating the process for everything I created earlier in the week. Now, let's not forget about listing videos because even Etsy itself has said that it gives you a 50% better chance at converting your customers. And to create videos of physical and print-on-demand products, I have switched to using Kittle's newest feature called Generate Video, where I can easily make videos from static images with just a few clicks and strokes of a keyboard. For example, I have these 2 images here, one of a shirt and one of a mug. And I'm gonna click on the image. It doesn't have to be on an artboard. And up here, I'm gonna click Generate Video. Now for my prompt, I'm just gonna say, make the model flip her hair and do a peace sign. And here on the bottom, we can select the AI model that we wanna use. For now, I'm gonna use this one, Veo 3.1 Fast. And here we can select the dimensions of the video. For now, we only have 16:9 ratio in horizontal or vertical format, but it doesn't really matter because we're gonna crop this video later. So I'm gonna select the horizontal. For length, we can do 4 seconds, 6 seconds, or 8 seconds, but the length isn't really that important on Etsy. So I'm just gonna select 6 seconds. And there is also an option to generate sound, but Etsy videos don't play sound, so we don't need that. So let's just keep that muted. And I'm gonna click on generate. Now, what's great about Kittle is you can do multiple videos at the same time while waiting for the others to generate. So now here for our mug, I'm gonna prompt it to pour hot coffee into the mug. Simple as that. And with the same settings, let's click on generate.
A few moments later.
And now we have videos made from the mock-up images we just provided. Let's take a look. And there she's flipping her hair and doing a peace sign. That's super cool because the design on the shirt is pretty intricate and it wasn't messed up by the animation that the AI added. Now let's take a look at the mug. And there we have steaming hot coffee being poured into the mug, and it's super frothy. Alternatively, what you could do is to save on credits. You could actually generate a video of the mug without the design, so just blank, and then add the design on top of it later on. Now, because the dimensions are kind of awkward, we have this black space at the sides. Let's just crop it by transferring it onto an artboard. Let's resize it to fit the square. And once that is in place, let's just click on the artboard and quick export with the format of MP4 and export that. And let's say, for example, you have 10 listings to make videos for this batch. You can just do them all at the same time and wait for them to generate the videos individually and then export them into their respective folders with their mockup images. And adding videos into your listings, especially if you're doing print on demand or physical products, it just makes a product feel more tangible. Because I think some customers do know that you probably don't have a physical copy of the thousands of shirt designs in your store, right? So having this kind of video makes it feel more realistic and give them a better idea of how it would look like in their lives. By the way, if you aren't subscribed to Kittle yet, you can use my code JAIYT, that's JAIYT, for a 25% discount off any Kittle plan. And this works for either the annual or monthly plan, and I think it's definitely worth it to breathe new life into your shop. That said, you don't have to use all these different programs like I do, so feel free to use whatever programs are available to you that are comfortable and quick to use. And because mockups are grouped into one day, I can get through them much faster than if I were creating them one by one after each design. There's less switching between windows and tabs, and I can focus on one platform at a time. Once the mockups are done, I save everything into different folders and call it a day. Friday is listing day, but with an important rule. I set everything up, but I don't publish yet. On this day, I upload the listing photos, write the titles, descriptions, attributes, and tags, which are using the keywords that I gathered on Monday. And for print-on-demand products, I set everything up in Printify, which is the print provider that I use. Because all the thinking work was already done earlier in the week, the process feels much faster and less mentally taxing. As a general rule, SEO shouldn't take more than a few minutes per listing. It's much easier when you think like a customer and focus on building clear, long-tail keyword phrases that people actually use to search for whatever it is that they need. And once everything is filled out, I hit save as draft for each one. Not publishing immediately gives me some space to come back later with fresh eyes, catch small mistakes, and make minor improvements before anything goes live. So by the end of Friday, I have a collection of fully prepared listings ready to publish every single day. Because it's much better to spread out your listings than just dump them all in one day. This will help preserve your shop's sales velocity, and again, Etsy will see your shop as active. Now, what about Saturday and Sunday? Well, I do believe in the importance of rest, which is why I limit heavy tasks to weekdays. The daily non-negotiables are still there, but that's just part of being a business owner. Outside of that, I try to let weekends actually feel like well-deserved breaks. If you want to replicate this system, the best part is that it's flexible. Maybe Tuesdays and Wednesdays are your busiest days at work, and so design feels better on Thursdays and Fridays. Or maybe you prefer longer design sessions on the weekend. That's totally fine. The structure matters more than the exact days. And this system works because it removes decision fatigue. Creative tasks, analytical tasks, and admin tasks all use different parts of your brain. So when you mix them together, everything feels harder than it needs to be. But by giving each day a clear role, the work becomes easier to repeat. Most burnout actually doesn't come from working too much. It comes from constantly switching mental load and never feeling finished. This schedule creates natural stopping points, and that's what makes consistency more doable. So yeah, that's pretty much how I've been structuring my weeks lately. Now, I don't always hit every task perfectly, and some weeks are messier than others. That's just life. But having this structure means I'm never fully stuck or starting from zero again and again. Because with this method, I get to post new listings more consistently, and Etsy rewards that. If you're someone who's been wanting to work on your Etsy shop but keeps feeling like you're falling behind, I hope this gave you a framework that you can borrow and adjust for your own schedule. You don't necessarily need more hours in the day. You just need a system that works around the ones you already have. And if this kind of slow, realistic approach to Etsy and online income is something that you're into, please like this video and subscribe. I share what's actually working for me, both the good weeks and the not so good ones. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.